Hey everyone, it's Sam here. Welcome to my channel. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of behavioral psychology with the groundbreaking book Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. This book, my friends, it's not just some dry textbook. It's a captivating exploration of how our minds make decisions. And trust me, it's way more interesting than it might sound. We're talking about the hidden biases that shape our every choice, from the cereal we buy to the careers we pursue. So, buckle up, because over the next few minutes, we'll explore the most impactful lessons from this masterpiece, uncovering the secrets of our own minds. Let's get started. The author introduces us to two characters, or should I say, two systems within our minds. System 1 and System 2. Picture System 1 as that impulsive, intuitive part of you, the one that decides in a snap whether to reach for the cookie or the carrot, almost like the 3-year-old child version of you. It's fast, it's emotional, and honestly, it's pretty much running the show most of the time. Now, meet System 2, the thoughtful, deliberate side of your brain. This is your inner Sherlock Holmes, carefully weighing evidence, analyzing situations, and pondering life's big questions. But here's the catch. System 2 is kind of lazy. It takes effort to fire up that logic engine. And System 1, well, it's always ready to jump in with a quick answer. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. We need both systems to navigate the world. Imagine having to consciously think about every single step you take, every breath you take. That's System 2 territory, and frankly, it would be exhausting. But, as Kahneman reveals, this division of labor can also lead to some pretty predictable errors in judgment. Think about the last time you made a snap decision that you later regretted. Maybe you impulsively bought something you couldn't afford or said something you didn't mean. That, my friends, was likely System 1 at work. So, how do we avoid these mental pitfalls? That's where understanding the interplay between these two systems becomes crucial. By recognizing the strengths and weaknesses of our fast and slow thinking, we can start making more conscious, reasoned choices. Now, let's talk about cognitive biases. These are like mental shortcuts, pre-programmed patterns of thinking that often lead us astray. They're the invisible forces shaping our perceptions and influencing our decisions, often without us even realizing it. One classic example is confirmation bias. This is our tendency to favor information that confirms our existing beliefs while ignoring evidence that contradicts them. It's why it can be so hard to have a rational conversation about, say, politics or religion. We're hardwired to seek out information that reinforces our worldview, even if it means cherry-picking data or dismissing opposing viewpoints. Another sneaky bias is the availability heuristic. This one's all about judging the likelihood of an event based on how easily examples come to mind. For instance, you might think shark attacks are more common than they actually are, simply because they get a lot of media attention. In reality, you're far more likely to be injured by a falling coconut, but those incidents don't exactly make for sensational headlines. These biases, they're not signs of weakness or stupidity. They're simply a product of how our brains evolved to process information efficiently in a world overflowing with stimuli. But by understanding these cognitive quirks, we can become more aware of their influence and start to mitigate their impact on our lives. You know how the saying goes, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Well, Kahneman might argue that our brains don't quite see it that way. This brings us to the concept of loss aversion, the idea that the pain of losing something is psychologically twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. Think about it. Would you be willing to take a 50-50 bet where you could either win $100 or lose $100? Most people wouldn't. The potential loss looms larger in our minds than the potential gain, even though the stakes are objectively the same. This aversion to loss has a profound impact on our decision-making, often leading us to be overly cautious and risk-averse. It explains why we cling to losing investments, why we stay in unhappy relationships, and why we sometimes avoid taking chances that could lead to great rewards. Understanding loss aversion is crucial for making rational choices. It's about recognizing when fear of loss is holding us back and learning to evaluate risks and rewards more objectively. Let's talk about anchors. No, not the heavy kind you throw overboard from a ship. We're talking about mental anchors, those subtle cues that influence our judgments, even when they have no logical relevance to the decision at hand. The anchoring effect is our tendency to rely too heavily on the first piece of information we receive, even if it's completely arbitrary. For example, imagine you're shopping for a used car. The seller throws out a ridiculously high price, an anchor. You negotiate them down, feeling pretty good about yourself for getting a deal, but chances are you're still paying more than the car is actually worth, because that initial high number anchored your perception of its value. The anchoring effect is everywhere. It's in the way stores set prices, the way negotiators frame offers, even in the way we evaluate ourselves and others. By being aware of this bias, we can learn to question our assumptions, to seek out multiple sources of information, and to avoid being swayed by irrelevant anchors. Life is complicated. We're constantly besieged with information, drowning in information, but faced with decisions and forced to make judgments under uncertainty. It's no wonder our brains have developed shortcuts, small rules of thumb to help us navigate this complex world. These mental shortcuts are called heuristics, and while they can be incredibly useful in simplifying our lives, they can also lead to systematic errors in thinking. We've already encountered a few heuristics, like the availability heuristic and the anchoring effect. These mental shortcuts, they're not inherently bad. They allow us to make quick judgments and decisions in a world that often demands rapid response. But by understanding how heuristics work and when they're most likely to mislead us, we can become more discerning thinkers. We can learn to recognize situations where our gut instincts might be leading us adrift and pause to engage in more deliberate System 2 thinking. Remember, our minds are incessantly striving for efficiency, but sometimes taking the scenic route, the one that involves conscious thought and careful consideration, can lead to far better outcomes. So, let's review and summarize the concept of cognitive biases and how they affect our decision-making process. Cognitive biases are systematic patterns of deviation from norm or rationality in judgment. They often occur due to the brain's attempt to simplify information processing. As we've discussed, common cognitive biases include confirmation bias, anchoring bias, and availability heuristic. Confirmation bias is our tendency to search for, interpret, and remember information in a way that confirms our preconceptions. Anchoring bias, as we've seen, is the heavy reliance on the first piece of information we encounter. The availability heuristic is when we overestimate the likelihood of events based on how easily examples come to mind. These biases can subtly influence our thoughts and actions, leading us to make poor decisions without even realizing it. Confirmation bias might make us ignore evidence that contradicts our beliefs, while anchoring bias can skew our judgments based on initial information. The availability heuristic might cause us to overestimate risks or benefits based on recent news or vivid memories. Take a moment to reflect now. How do these system 1 thinking traps impact your life? When was the last time system 1 influenced your decisions drastically? Can understanding these biases help you make more informed and aware decisions next time in the future? By recognizing when we might be falling into these traps, we can pause and engage our more deliberate, analytical System 2 thinking. The minute we ask empowering, reflective questions of a philosophical quality, we are now engaging our System 2. We question our assumptions, seek out diverse perspectives, and ensuingly make better choices. So, the next time you find yourself making a decision, take a moment to consider whether any cognitive biases might be at play. Challenge your initial thoughts, seek out alternative evidence, and strive for a more balanced perspective. In doing so, you'll be taking a crucial step toward becoming a more rational and effective decision maker. Next, let's delve into the role of emotions in thinking. Emotions can significantly influence our thoughts and decisions. For instance, fear can lead to risk-averse behavior, while excitement can result in more risk-taking behavior. Emotions often act as a lens through which we view and interpret information, and they can either cloud our judgment or provide valuable insights. The quality of our daily emotions determine the quality of our life. By recognizing the magnitude of our daily emotions, we can strive to achieve a balance between rational thinking and emotional responses. When faced with a major decision, take a moment to identify what emotions you are feeling. Are you anxious, excited, or perhaps indifferent? Understanding these emotions can help you discern whether they are aiding or hindering your decision-making process. Emotions are not inherently bad. They are an integral part of our human experience. However, being aware of their influence can help us navigate complex decisions more effectively. By integrating emotional awareness with rational analysis, we can make choices that are not only logical, but also aligned with our values and long-term goals. So, the next time you find yourself at a crossroads, remember to check in with your emotions. They might just offer the insight you need to make the best possible decision. Finally, strategies to improve our overall thinking. One effective approach is to practice mindfulness, which involves being present and fully engaged, lost in the current moment. Mindfulness can help us become more aware of our automatic thoughts and biases, allowing us to respond more thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Another strategy is to seek diverse perspectives, as this can help us avoid the pitfalls of narrow thinking. engaging with people who have different viewpoints can broaden our understanding and challenge our preconceived notions. By continuously learning and challenging our assumptions, we can enhance our cognitive abilities and make better decisions. Reading widely, staying curious, and being open to new experiences are all ways to keep our minds sharp and adaptable. Remember, improving our thinking is a lifelong journey. With dedication and practice, we can develop a more nuanced and effective approach to decision making. So, take a moment each day to reflect, seek out new perspectives, and keep pushing the boundaries of your thinking. Your future self will thank you. Thanks for joining me on this reflective journey, reviewing some of the best psychological tips I've learned from thinking fast and slow. We've just scratched the surface of this incredibly insightful book, and I encourage you to plunge into the full thing to explore this groundbreaking work in more depth. Understanding how our minds work, how we make decisions, and how we can overcome our cognitive biases is a lifelong pursuit. From my heart to yours, let's be more aware, more deliberate, and essentially more in control of our own thoughts and actions. Don't forget to like and share your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure you hit that subscribe button too, so you'll be notified when I submerge myself into my next book reflection. Let's keep the conversation going and continue to explore the fascinating world of behavioral psychology together. Thank you once again, and as always, sending lots of love to you. Until next time.